There comes a moment in every person's life when excuses stop working, when blaming circumstances loses its power, and when the mirror becomes impossible to avoid. That moment is not meant to shame you, it is meant to awaken you. Because somewhere beneath the disappointment, beneath the delays, beneath the distractions and setbacks, there is a version of you that still remembers the promises you made. There is a version of you that remembers the prayers you prayed when nobody was watching. There is a version of you that remembers the dreams that once kept you awake at night with excitement. The tragedy is not that life became difficult. The tragedy is when difficulty convinces you to abandon the person God was calling you to become. Many people are waiting for motivation to arrive before they move. They are waiting for the perfect opportunity, the perfect mood, the perfect season, the perfect support system. But growth rarely comes wrapped in comfort. Transformation rarely introduced itself with convenience. Most of the time, the next level of your life is hiding behind a decision you have been avoiding. The future you desire is often standing on the other side of discipline. God can open doors, create opportunities, and provide strength. But there are some steps that only you can take. There are some habits that only you can break. There are some excuses that only you can silence. You cannot keep praying for a new life while protecting the behaviors that created the old one. You cannot ask God for increase while refusing to increase your effort. You cannot expect your future to look different when your daily choices remain the same. The person you said you would become is not waiting for another year. That person is waiting for your obedience today. Every day you postpone your purpose, you postpone the impact you were born to make. Every day you delay your growth. You delay the blessing attached to your development. The enemy is not always trying to destroy you through failure. Sometimes he tries to destroy you through comfort. Sometimes he wants you satisfied with potential instead of committed to progress. He wants you talking about greatness while avoiding the work greatness requires. He wants you celebrating intentions instead of producing results. But God did not create you to spend your life admiring the possibilities. He created you to walk in them. He created you to rise above fear, rise above doubt, rise above insecurity, and become the person your calling demands. Today is not about who you used to be. Today is not about your mistakes, your regrets, your missed opportunities, or your past failures. Today is about making a decision. A decision to stop negotiating with weakness. A decision to stop surrendering to procrastination. A decision to stop waiting for feelings to cooperate before taking action. Today is about forcing yourself to become who you said you would, because the life God showed you was never meant to remain a dream. It was meant to become your reality. There are days when you will not feel motivated. There will be mornings when the bed feels more comfortable than your purpose. There will be moments when quitting seems easier than continuing. There will be seasons when progress appears invisible and effort feels unrewarded. Those are the moments that reveal who you truly are. Character is not revealed when everything is easy. Character is revealed when every excuse is available, and you still choose responsibility. Most people believe success belongs to the talented, the gifted, or the fortunate. But history repeatedly proves that success often belongs to the consistent. Talent may open a door, but discipline keeps it open. Passion may start the journey, but commitment finishes it. Feelings fluctuate. Emotions change. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline remains. Discipline gets up when motivation sleeps. Discipline keeps moving when emotions become unstable. Discipline continues building when nobody is applauding. One of the greatest lies people tell themselves is I will start when I feel ready. The truth is that readiness is often created through action. Confidence is not something you wait for. Confidence is something you build. Every courageous step creates evidence that you can handle more than you thought. Every act of discipline strengthens muscles that comfort has weakened. Every promise you keep to yourself increases your self-respect. Some people have broken so many promises to themselves that they no longer trust their own words. They say they will wake up earlier, but they don't. They say they will study harder, but they don't. They say they will take care of their health, but they don't. They say they will pursue their purpose, but they don't. Eventually, a dangerous pattern develops. The issue is no longer the goal. The issue becomes trust. If you cannot trust yourself to do what you said you would do, your confidence begins to collapse from the inside out. That is why every small act of discipline matters. It is not just about completing a task. It is about rebuilding trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you send a message to your mind that your word still means something. Every time you keep showing up, even when you do not feel like it, you strengthen your identity. You begin proving to yourself that you are not controlled by moods, emotions, or temporary discomfort. Too many people have become servants to their feelings. If they feel inspired, they work. If they feel discouraged, they stop. If they feel confident, they move forward. If they feel uncertain, they retreat. But feelings were never designed to be your leader. Feelings are indicators, not directors. If you allow every emotion to control your decisions, your life will become unstable. You cannot build a strong future on unstable emotions. God never promised that purpose would always feel comfortable. Sometimes purpose feels heavy. Sometimes purpose requires sacrifice. Sometimes purpose demands that you keep moving, while carrying responsibilities you never expected. Yet the people who transform their lives understand something powerful. They understand that feelings are temporary, but consequences are lasting. The discomfort of discipline lasts for a moment. The regret of neglect can last for years. Think about the person you promised yourself you would become. Think about the goals you wrote down. Think about the prayers you whispered through tears. Think about the vision that filled your heart when nobody else believed in you. That version of yourself is not created by occasional effort. That version is created by daily decisions. It is created when you choose growth over comfort. It is created when you choose responsibility over excuses. It is created when you choose action over procrastination. The greatest battle you will ever fight is not against another person. It is not against circumstance. It is not against critics. The greatest battle is often between who you are today and who you are capable of becoming. One version of you wants immediate comfort. The other version wants lasting fulfillment. One version wants convenience. The other wants purpose. One version wants excuses. The other wants transformation. Every day you wake up, those two versions compete for control of your future. The difference between them is determined by your decisions, not your intentions, not your wishes, not your hopes. Your decisions. Because intentions without action remain dreams. Vision without discipline remains fantasy. Faith without movement remains potential. The life you desire is not built in a single dramatic moment. It is built through thousands of ordinary decisions, repeated consistently over time. When you force yourself to keep going despite discomfort, you are training your spirit. When you force yourself to remain committed despite obstacles, you are developing resilience. When you force yourself to honor your commitments, despite temptation, You are becoming stronger than the excuses that once controlled you. Every act of discipline becomes a brick in the foundation of the future you have been praying for. One of the hardest truths a person will ever face is realizing that many of the things they desperately want are blocked by the excuses they refuse to release. Excuses are dangerous because they often sound reasonable. They disguise themselves as explanations. They make us feel justified in staying where we are. They convince us that our circumstances are responsible for our stagnation. But if you are honest with yourself, you will discover that some of the walls standing in front of you are not walls at all. They are excuses that have been repeated so many times that they have started to sound like facts. There are people who say they want a better life, but they refuse to develop better habits. There are people who pray for new opportunities, but they are unwilling to prepare for them. There are people who ask God for change, while remaining committed to the same patterns that created their frustration. The truth is that you cannot experience transformation while remaining loyal to the behaviors that are preventing it. Change requires confrontation. It requires honesty. It requires the courage to stop blaming everything around you and start evaluating what is happening within you. Many people spend years waiting for circumstances to improve before they decide to grow. They say they will become disciplined when life becomes easier. They say they will start pursuing their purpose when they have more time. They say they will work harder when they feel more motivated. They say they will become consistent when conditions become perfect. But perfect conditions rarely arrive. Life will always present challenges. There will always be responsibilities, distractions, obstacles, and uncertainties. If you keep waiting for an ideal moment, you may spend your entire life waiting. Growth begins when excuses end. The moment you stop explaining why you cannot and start focusing on what you can do, everything begins to shift. Your energy changes. Your perspective changes. Your confidence changes. You stop viewing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start seeing yourself as a steward of your future. You recognize that while you may not control every situation, you do control your response to it. One excuse that destroys countless dreams is the belief that it is too late. Many people have convinced themselves that they missed their opportunity. They look at their age, their mistakes, their failures, or their past decisions and conclude that their best years are behind them. But God has never been limited by human timelines. Throughout Scripture, God repeatedly used people who believed they were disqualified. He used individuals who felt inadequate, overlooked, and unprepared. Their stories remind us that purpose is not determined by age. Destiny is not cancelled by delay. Another excuse people embrace is comparison. They spend so much time looking at someone else's journey that they neglect their own. They compare their beginning to another person's middle. They compare their struggles to another person's victories. They compare their weaknesses to another person's strengths. Comparison creates discouragement because it shifts your focus away from the assignment God has given you. The moment you become consumed with someone else's path, you lose sight of your own. Excuses also thrive in fear. Fear tells you that failure will destroy you. Fear tells you that rejection will define you. Fear tells you that you are not capable enough, smart enough, talented enough, or qualified enough. Fear creates imaginary barriers and then convinces you they are real. It magnifies every obstacle and minimizes every strength. But courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward despite fear. Courage is choosing action even when uncertainty remains. The reality is that every meaningful accomplishment requires discomfort. Every breakthrough requires effort. Every season of growth demands sacrifice. You cannot become stronger without resistance. You cannot become wiser without challenges. You cannot become who God created you to be, while avoiding every difficult situation. The very struggles you want to escape may be developing the strength you need for your next level. Many people underestimate the power of personal responsibility. Responsibility is not about carrying shame. It is about embracing ownership. When you take responsibility for your choices, you regain power. When everything is someone else's fault, your future becomes dependent on other people changing. But when you accept responsibility, you place your future back into your own hands. You stop waiting for others to rescue you. You stop expecting circumstances to magically improve. You begin making decisions that move your life forward. There comes a point when you must stop rehearsing the reasons why something has not happened and start creating reasons why it can happen. You must stop telling yourself stories about limitation and start reminding yourself of possibility. You must stop feeding doubt and start feeding faith. Every day presents a choice. You can strengthen your excuses, or you can strengthen your discipline. You can strengthen your fears, or you can strengthen your courage. You can strengthen your limitations, or you can strengthen your belief. The truth is that most people already know what they need to do. They know the habits they need to develop. They know the conversations they need to have. They know the distractions they need to remove. They know the opportunities they need to pursue. The challenge is not always a lack of knowledge. Often the challenge is a lack of action. Knowledge creates awareness, but action creates transformation. Imagine what could happen if you stopped negotiating with every excuse that enters your mind. Imagine what could happen if you treated your commitments as non-negotiable. Imagine what could happen if you approached each day with the determination to honor the promises you made to yourself and to God. The progress may not be immediate, but it will be real. The results may not appear overnight, but they will accumulate. Every small act of obedience will move you closer to the person you are becoming. Your future is not waiting for another excuse. Your future is waiting for a decision. A decision to stop blaming, stop postponing, stop comparing, stop doubting, and stop surrendering to fear. The life you want will always demand more from you than excuses can provide. The calling on your life is greater than the reasons you keep giving for remaining the same. The moment you release your excuses, you create space for growth. The moment you embrace responsibility, you create momentum. The moment you decide that your dreams are worth the effort required to achieve them, you begin stepping into the life that God has been preparing you for. Many people spend their lives waiting for one big moment that will change everything. They imagine a breakthrough that will suddenly transform their circumstances. They dream about an opportunity that will instantly solve their problems. They hope for a miracle that will move them from where they are to where they want to be overnight. But the truth is that most life-changing transformations are not built in a single moment. They are built in daily decisions. They are built through choices that seem small at first, but become powerful when repeated consistently over time. Your future is not created by what you intend to do someday. Your future is being shaped by what you do today. Every choice you make is laying a brick in the foundation of the life you are building. The habits you practice, the thoughts you entertain, the people you surround yourself with, the disciplines you embrace, and the responsibilities you accept are all quietly constructing your future. Whether you realize it or not, every day you are becoming someone The question is whether you are becoming the person you were called to be, or drifting toward a version of yourself that was never meant to exist. One of the greatest misconceptions people have is believing that success is created by occasional effort. They believe that a few days of hard work can compensate for months of inconsistency. They believe that a burst of motivation can replace a lifestyle of discipline. But lasting transformation is not produced by what you do occasionally. It is produced by what you do consistently. Consistency may not be exciting, but it is powerful. It may not attract attention, but it creates results. It may not feel dramatic, but it changes lives. Think about a seed planted in the ground. The seed does not become a tree overnight. Day after day, something invisible is happening beneath the surface. Roots are growing, strength is developing, growth is taking place even when there is no visible evidence. In the same way, your daily choices are producing results long before those results become obvious. Every act of discipline is strengthening something within you. Every moment of faithfulness is preparing you for something greater. Every wise decision is creating opportunities that may not be visible yet. Many people become discouraged because they cannot immediately see progress. They work hard for a few days and expect instant results. They pray for a week and expect every problem to disappear. They practice discipline for a month and wonder why their entire life has not changed. What they fail to understand is that growth often happens gradually. Transformation usually occurs through accumulation. Small victories repeated consistently eventually produce extraordinary outcomes. The enemy loves to convince people that small choices do not matter. He wants you to believe that one day of procrastination is insignificant. He wants you to believe that one compromise is harmless. He wants you to believe that one neglected responsibility will not make a difference. But just as positive habits create positive outcomes, negative habits create negative outcomes. Small choices accumulate in both directions. Every decision is shaping your future, whether you recognize it or not. There are people living in frustration today because they are expecting a future that their current habits are not supporting. They want success but avoid discipline. They want growth but resist discomfort. They want change but cling to old behaviors. They want a different life while maintaining the same routines. But your future cannot consistently exceed the quality of your daily choices. The life you desire requires actions that align with that desire. God has given every person the gift of choice. He may open doors, provide opportunities, and offer guidance, but He does not force decisions. Every day you are presented with opportunities to move closer to your purpose or further away from it. Every day you decide whether you will pursue growth or remain comfortable. Every day you choose whether you will strengthen your faith or strengthen your fears. Every day you decide whether you will honor your calling or postpone it. One of the most powerful truths you can embrace is that you do not need to change your entire life in a single day. You simply need to make the next right choice. Sometimes people become overwhelmed because they focus on the distance between where they are and where they want to be. The gap appears so large that they become discouraged before they begin. But transformation happens one decision at a time. One disciplined morning, one courageous conversation, one act of obedience, one step of faith, one responsible choice repeated day after day. The person you admire did not become that person by accident. The leader, entrepreneur, athlete, minister, or successful individual you respect was shaped by countless unseen decisions. They chose discipline when others chose comfort. They chose preparation when others chose excuses. They chose persistence when others chose surrender. What appears to be an overnight success is usually the result of years of consistent effort hidden from public view. Your daily choices reveal your priorities. They reveal what truly matters to you. It is easy to speak about dreams, but your actions reveal your commitment to those dreams. It is easy to talk about purpose, but your decisions reveal whether you are pursuing it. It is easy to pray for change, but your habits reveal whether you are cooperating with the change you are asking God to produce. Many people underestimate the power of a single day. They tell themselves they will start tomorrow. They postpone important decisions because they assume another opportunity will come. They delay action because they believe they have plenty of time. But days become weeks, weeks become months, and months become years. Life is built one day at a time. The future arrives through the accumulation of ordinary moments. Every day matters because every day contributes to the person you are becoming. Imagine what would happen if you became intentional about your daily choices. Imagine if you approached each day with purpose instead of drifting through it. Imagine if you treated every decision as an investment in your future. Over time, those decisions would begin producing results. Confidence would increase. Discipline would strengthen. Opportunities would expand. Progress would become visible. The person you once dreamed of becoming would gradually become your reality. The future you desire is not hidden in some distant season. It is being created right now through the decisions you are making. Every act of integrity is shaping it. Every sacrifice is strengthening it. Every moment of discipline is building it. Every step of faith is moving you toward it. The life God has called you to live is not merely waiting somewhere ahead. It is being constructed today through the choices you make, the habits you practice, and the commitment you demonstrate. The future is not something that simply happens to you. The future is something you build one faithful decision at a time. One of the greatest obstacles standing between people and their destiny is not a lack of talent, opportunity, intelligence, or resources. It is their attachment to a version of themselves that no longer serves the future God is calling into. Many people want growth, but they do not want change. They want a new life while holding on to an old identity. They want greater blessings while maintaining familiar habits. They want transformation without transition. But every level of growth demands that something old be released before something new can emerge. The truth is that growth is uncomfortable because it challenges who you have been. It asks you to let go of patterns that once felt familiar. It requires you to leave behind mindsets that once felt safe. It demands that you step beyond limitations that you once accepted as permanent. Growth is not simply about gaining something new. It is also about surrendering something old. You cannot become who you are meant to be while remaining committed to who you used to be. Many people unknowingly build their identity around their struggles. They become so accustomed to disappointment that they expect failure. They become so familiar with fear that they mistake it for wisdom. They become so comfortable with insecurity that confidence feels unnatural. Over time, these limitations become part of their self-image. They stop seeing them as obstacles and start seeing them as personality traits. What began as a temporary struggle becomes a permanent label. The danger of this mindset is that people begin defending the very things they need to overcome. They explain why they cannot change. They justify why they cannot grow. They repeat stories about their limitations until those stories become stronger than their faith. Instead of viewing themselves through the lens of possibility, They view themselves through the lens of past experiences. They allow old wounds to define new opportunity. God never intended your history to become your identity. Your mistakes were experiences, not definitions. Your failures were events, not permanent labels. Your disappointments were seasons, not destinies. Yet, many people continue introducing themselves to the future through the language of their past. They walk into new opportunities carrying old fears. They approach new relationships carrying old pain. They enter new seasons carrying old assumptions. Growth requires the courage to release the version of yourself that was created by survival and embrace the version of yourself that is being called into purpose. There's a difference between surviving and thriving. Survival focuses on avoiding pain. Purpose focuses on pursuing impact. Survival teaches you how to endure difficult seasons. Purpose teaches you how to create meaningful ones. At some point, you must stop living merely to protect yourself from disappointment and start living boldly enough to fulfill your calling. One of the reasons growth feels uncomfortable is because it often separates you from familiar environments. As you develop, your priorities change, your conversations change, your perspective changes, your standards change. The things that once entertained you may no longer satisfy you. The places that once felt comfortable may begin to feel restrictive. The habits that once seemed harmless may begin to feel destructive. This is not evidence that something is wrong. It is evidence that something is changing. Every season of growth involves a process of stretching. God often expands your vision before He expands your circumstances. He allows you to see possibilities that exceed your current reality. At first, this can feel frustrating because you become aware of the gap between where you are and where you are meant to be. But that awareness is not punishment, it is preparation. God is showing you what is possible, so that you will stop settling for what is familiar. Too many people remain trapped because they are more committed to comfort than to transformation. Comfort feels predictable. Comfort feels safe. Comfort requires very little risk, but comfort also limits potential. Nothing extraordinary grows in an environment where everything remains the same. Progress requires movement. Development requires challenge. Purpose requires courage. The person God is calling you to become exists beyond the boundaries of your current comfort zone. Think about every significant accomplishment in your life. Every achievement required some level of discomfort. Every breakthrough demanded effort. Every lesson required growth. You did not become stronger by avoiding challenges. You became stronger by facing them. You did not develop resilience by escaping adversity. You develop resilience by enduring it. The very experiences that stretched you were often the experiences that prepared you. Many people fear change because they worry about losing a part of themselves. What they fail to realize is that growth does not destroy your true identity. Growth reveals it. The strongest version of you is not created by comfort. It is revealed through challenge. The wisest version of you is not created by ease. It is developed through experience. The most confident version of you is not born from certainty. It emerges through courageous action despite uncertainty. Sometimes growth requires leaving behind the opinions that have defined you. There are people who have spent years living according to the expectations of others. They have shaped their choices around approval. They have limited their potential to avoid criticism. They have hidden their gifts because they feared rejection. But you cannot fulfill your purpose while being controlled by the opinions of people who did not create your destiny. At some point, you must become more committed to your calling than to the comfort of acceptance. Growth also requires leaving behind the excuses that once protected you. Excuses often provide temporary relief from responsibility. They allow you to avoid difficult conversations, challenging decisions, and uncomfortable actions. But they also prevent progress. Every excuse you keep becomes a chain that limits your future. Every excuse you release creates room for growth. The person you are becoming will require different habits, different standards, and different levels of discipline. That version of you cannot be built while clinging to old behaviors. Every new season demands a new level of commitment. Every greater opportunity requires greater preparation. Every higher calling requires greater maturity. The future cannot be built using the same mindset that created the past. Imagine what could happen if you stopped introducing yourself according to your limitations. Imagine if you stopped defining yourself by your failures. Imagine if you stopped measuring your future according to your history. Imagine if you embrace the possibility that God sees something in you that you have not fully seen in yourself. That perspective would change everything. It would change the way you think, the way you act, the way you pray, and the way you approach opportunities. The person you said you would become is waiting on the other side of growth. That person cannot emerge while you remain attached to an outdated identity. The future is calling for a stronger version of you, a wiser version of you, a more disciplined version of you, a more faithful version of you. Every day presents an opportunity to release what is limiting you and embrace what is developing you. Growth is not always comfortable, but comfort has never created the kind of transformation that purpose requires. The life God is preparing for you demands that you become willing to leave behind who you were so that you can fully step into who you were created to be. There is a version of your life that exists on the other side of obedience. There is a level of peace, purpose, strength, wisdom, and fulfillment that cannot be reached through wishful thinking alone. It cannot be reached through good intentions, empty promises, or occasional effort. It is reached through obedience. Many people spend years praying for doors to open while ignoring the instructions God has already placed in their hearts. They ask for direction while refusing to take the first step. They seek clarity while avoiding responsibility. But often the breakthrough they are waiting for is connected to the obedience they are delaying. God has placed gifts inside of you that were never meant to remain hidden. He has planted dreams within you that were never intended to stay buried beneath fear and insecurity. He has given you assignments that require your participation. Faith is powerful, but faith was never designed to replace action. Faith moves, faith responds, faith obeys. When God calls you forward, He is not merely inviting you to believe. He is inviting you to act. Many people love the idea of purpose, but purpose carries responsibility. Purpose requires discipline. Purpose asks you to become someone greater than the person you have settled into being. This is why obedience is often difficult. It challenges comfort, it disrupts routine, it confronts fear, it forces you to trust God beyond the limits of your understanding. Yet, every significant move of God in a person's life has often been preceded by an act of obedience. Obedience is not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like waking up earlier to spend time in prayer. Sometimes it looks like remaining faithful when nobody is watching. Sometimes it means continuing to work diligently when recognition has not yet arrived. Sometimes it means forgiving someone who hurt you. Sometimes it means stepping away from habits that are damaging your future. Sometimes it means pursuing a dream that others do not understand. The size of the action is not what makes obedience powerful. The willingness to follow God's direction is what gives it significance. One of the enemy's greatest strategies is convincing people that they have plenty of time. He whispers that you can obey later. He tells you there will be another opportunity. He encourages delay because he understands something many people forget. Delayed obedience often becomes disobedience. Every day spent postponing what God has instructed you to do is a day that slows your progress toward the future He has prepared. There are people carrying dreams that have remained dormant for years because they are waiting for confidence before they move. But confidence is often a result of obedience, not a prerequisite for it. You do not become courageous and then obey. You obey. Encourage develops along the way. You do not become fearless and then take action. You take action despite fear and strength begins to grow. Every step of obedience teaches you that God is faithful enough to sustain you beyond your comfort zone. Think about the moments in your life when growth occurred most significantly. Those moments rarely happen when everything was predictable. They often happen when you were challenged to trust God in unfamiliar circumstances. They happen when you chose faith over fear. They happen when you stepped into uncertainty with confidence that God would guide you. Obedience has a way of revealing strengths you never knew existed. It introduces you to parts of yourself that comfort could never uncover. Many people underestimate how much their future depends on the decisions they make today. They imagine destiny as something distant and mysterious. In reality, destiny is often shaped by daily obedience. It is built through small choices repeated consistently over time. It is strengthened every time you honor your commitments. It is developed every time you choose discipline over distraction. It is expanded every time you trust God enough to move forward. The person God called you to be cannot emerge while you continue negotiating with every instruction. Growth requires commitment. Purpose requires surrender. There are moments when God asks you to release things that feel familiar because He knows they are preventing you from reaching your potential. He may ask you to leave behind unhealthy relationships, destructive habits, limiting beliefs, or comfortable routines. Not because He wants to diminish your life, but because He wants to expand it. Obedience often feels costly in the beginning because it requires sacrifice. It asks you to give up what is comfortable for what is meaningful. It asks you to exchange immediate gratification for long-term fulfillment. It asks you to trust promises that may not yet be visible. Yet, every sacrifice made in obedience carries the potential for greater reward than anything comfort could provide. There are people who know exactly what they need to do. Deep inside, they are aware of the conversations they need to have, the habits they need to change, the opportunities they need to pursue, and the fears they need to confront. The challenge is not a lack of knowledge. The challenge is a lack of action. Knowledge without obedience produces frustration because it creates awareness without transformation. True change begins when knowledge is followed by movement. The remarkable thing about obedience is that it does not require perfection. God is not waiting for you to have every answer before you begin. He is not expecting flawless performance. He is looking for willingness. He is looking for a heart that is prepared to trust Him enough to take the next step. The people who fulfill their calling are rarely the people who had everything figured out from the beginning. They are the people who continued moving forward, even when uncertainty remained. Imagine what your life could look like if you stop postponing what God has been urging you to do. Imagine the growth that could occur if you became fully committed to obedience. Imagine the opportunities that could emerge if you stopped allowing fear to dictate your decisions. Imagine the strength that could develop if you consistently honored the assignments placed before you. Every act of obedience would move you closer to the person you were created to become. The future God has prepared for you is not waiting for another excuse. It is waiting for your response. The calling on your life is greater than your fear. The purpose within you is stronger than your doubts. The destiny ahead of you is more significant than the comfort behind you. Every day you are presented with a choice. Remain where you are or move toward who God has called you to be. The person God envisioned when He placed purpose inside your heart is not created by chance. That person is shaped through faith, strengthened through discipline, and revealed through obedience. Every step you take in obedience becomes another step toward the life you once prayed for, the future you once imagined, and the person you promised yourself you would become.